This is the Washington Times front page for Monday, January 30th, 2023. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. An Inspector General review found tens of thousands of federal employees stole money by filing bogus pandemic loan requests. The employees were flagged by the Pandemic Response Accountability Committee led by Inspector General Michael Horowitz. Stephen Dinan reports the effort is a data-driven attempt to sniff out fraud in the pandemic assistance that the federal government has paid out over the last 3 years. The committee built a database of all pandemic loan applications filed with the Small Business Administration, matched it to lists of federal employees, and came up with leads to investigate. It then worked with Inspector General offices in various federal agencies to follow up. A British study published this month found that patients with COVID-19 were 4 times likelier to develop major cardiovascular disease in the acute phase of infection than those who were uninfected. Even after the worst of their illness was over, Tom Howe reports they were 40% likelier to experience cardiac problems than the control group. The research comes on top of a massive study of U.S. veterans last year that found those infected by the coronavirus were at greater risk of heart attack, stroke, blood clots, irregular heartbeats, and heart inflammation. A group of environmentalists is calling on New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy to halt work on ocean wind projects after a sudden increase in whales beached on the region's seashores. In a little more than a month, Susan Ferricchio reports 7 dead whales have washed up on New York and New Jersey beaches, most of them humpbacks. That's a record in a region that has typically had that many beachings in an entire year. Some environmentalists say underwater surveys for the installation of wind turbines could be disturbing whale migration and causing them to get injured or stranded on shore. You can read all of these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. You can also find the entire lineup of Washington Times podcasts at WashingtonTimes.com/podcasts. Twitter internal emails revealed that company executives went back and forth over false claims that Russian bots had overtaken the platform after Twitter performed its own analysis of its data. The Alliance for Securing Democracy defended its methodology for tracking the bots in a fact sheet provided to our Joseph Clark. The fact sheet said that its dashboard provided a window into Russian propaganda and disinformation online. Privately, Twitter executives warned that the dashboard would be used to target ordinary users who express views that strayed from the mainstream. Cannabis has recently become legal in Thailand, but the movement could be snuffed out if opposition politicians win elections for parliament and prime minister. The laws legalizing cannabis have been criticized as vague, loosely interpreted, and irregularly enforced. They allow licensed sales of cannabis, but not extracts of THC or hashish to anyone not younger than 20 or pregnant. Some shops label every strain as medical cannabis in an effort to quell concerns about recreational sales. Police can arrest users, but only for pollution if someone complains about secondhand smoke. And finally, religion reporter Mark Kellner previews this week's International Religious Freedom Summit in Washington. Global rights concerns will be at the center of the summit on Tuesday and Wednesday. Featured speakers include former NBA player and human rights activist Enos Kanter Freedom and U.S. Agency for International Development Administrator Samantha Power. The Washington Times Foundation, which is associated with this news organization, is a sponsoring partner of the summit. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Washington Times in any major podcast app. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at WashTimes for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.